Hey everyone, it's the Nitty Professor. Today's topic is about going analog and going knitting because I think there is a very strong connection between the two. Now, going analog is something that my kids talk about regularly, and I saw a news spot about it, and I was like, hey, that's like my kids. My son, for example, has become a big phonograph record collection, loves to collect vinyl. He's kind of inspired me because the new book that I'm writing, I always write something new alongside editing, features a vinyl shop and some shenanigans that have to do with that. So vinyl is something that's played a role in my life just since I was a baby, honestly. Got a few examples here. I still have a big collection of phonograph records. Here's just a couple samples. Symphonies by Mala, that's the fourth. Ooh, I like this. I should go back. This Kanam Wunahon and others, some Mala art songs. What else have we got here? Death in Venice soundtrack. Ooh, if I'm not mistaken, that's from the third. That's the Fifth Symphony. Fifth Symphony and the Kindertotenlieder. And here's the Fifth Symphony. That's just a little sampling. I have a bunch of records. I have jazz. I have Loggins and Messina, Dan Fogelberg, all kinds of stuff. Still kicking. Have a phonograph player. So for him, it's all about the phonograph records. He's a big metal fan, but he's got classical, he's got jazz, he's got all kinds of stuff, and his fiance helps to add some, R&B, all kinds of stuff. So we'll examine some connections here. We'll look at some more analog stuff as we go. But why would someone who's going analog might also want to consider going knitting, shall we say, crocheting, fiber crafting, doing stuff with your hands? So for one thing, going analog and going knitting connects you with tangible reality. Stuff you can hold, stuff you can wear, stuff you can give or pass down. It's not like one of those Trump meme coins. It's real. It just doesn't hover out there on the cloud. It's actually something that can hover in your closet. Instead of digital files and virtual accomplishments, you can have objects that really exist, that are real, that are tangible, that you can feel. And, you can carry it away, right? You can knit so much that you have to start giving it away. But there you go. There are your gifts right there. Slows your pace. That's another connection. So, and I'm guilty. I mean, I listen to a lot of my music on YouTube because I don't have to do nothing. I can just keep writing. But playing records, kind of have to get up and down. You might have to wipe some dust off of your record. You have to get it out of the envelope and put it back into the envelope. Knitting is also something that you can't really rush. Well, I've seen people knit fast, and I suppose there is like the option of making that an ambition. But a lot of people who knit by hand are not using a machine for a reason, and that is because they don't care how fast they go. Now, they may, if they're doing a make-along or they've got, they're on a deadline, have to get that gift made by October 7th or whatever it is. But as a rule, every stitch that you make requires a certain degree of attention, encourages patience, and a culture that does not prize instant gratification like a lot of the other aspects of our culture. So both going analog and fiber crafting, knitting, crocheting are harmonious in that regard. You can also replace your screen time with hand time. I think I've shared this with you before, how at one point, it's been like probably a year ago, but my daughter was complaining that, she's scrolling a lot and she would rather think of using that time doing something with her hands. And lately she's been getting into that a lot more, and I think she's happier. I think she's just happier. You go analog to seek healthier alternatives to endless scrolling. And knitting it's similar in the way that it allows you to keep your hands busy, which Lord knows I need to keep my hands busy. And in the meantime, you can enjoy conversation, music, you can listen to podcasts, or you could just sit, right? You could sit outside, especially if it's not mosquito-y like it is here. Just take in the sounds of birds or the sounds of, your dog's stomach grumbling or, whatever it is that reminds yourself that you're here in the present. And that's where, ideally we should be most of the time. Also as a way to develop genuine competence. So a lot of the digital activities that we do, especially scrolling, checking out the latest depressing news, they don't really leave a whole lot of evidence that you've built up a skill. And even some of the quote-unquote apps that supposedly, might help you quote-unquote learn a language or something like that, they're limited. I mean, I had students come to my classes who had done Duolingo and stuff, and did they have vocabulary words? Sure. But could they string together a sophisticated sentence? Not really. So by actually doing hands-on stuff and using those old media where you are forced to engage your brain, you're going to accomplish something that you're not going to do with most digital activities. Every project is going to teach you a new technique, and even if the technique is just, patience and grit, that's still useful compared to some of the digital activities where you just sort of learn how to cheat. Another thing that's really cool about knitting and going analog in general is options to repair. I like thinking about machines sometimes because you know how it is. Like, I ran into someone, in fact, I don't know, it might have been one of you guys, who was saying that there is such a thing as sewing machines that preclude the opportunity for the user to actually fix them. And I think back to the car that my son has, and he got a car that's over 20 years old, and he can do all kinds of things. All he has to do is figure it out, A lot of the cars that they have now, there's so much computer stuff in there, and they even force you to get certain tools to work on those certain cars so that not the average person can even make the investment. It's just, I don't know. It's like taking away the agency from people. But if you understand how knitted fabric works, like yesterday, actually it's 2 days ago on my flight home, I happened to be sitting across the aisle from someone who was knitting a cap, and there was like a little loop, and we were talking about how, that it's easy to fix that, and she was like, yep. And she was saying how her son even was like super good at fixing her knitting. So we agreed that it was just super cool that you could make a mistake, but then you can go back and you can use your ingenuity and your skill to fix it. And that holds true for things that maybe you're just a little bit worn out or something fell apart, and you can go back and you can fix it. So you can mend garments and then not discard them. And that's a beautiful thing. That's like this kind of slow mindset that pushes against fast fashion and stuff that's just disposable for the sake of it. So that's another benefit. Now I've got a few more analog examples of stuff. We'll just take a tiny break here from some of my points, but here's another one. CDs! Woo! Boy, in the 90s I collected a slew of these. This was before I had kids and I belonged to these clubs. Doesn't this look nice? It's so hot now. Thinking about winter solstice songs makes me kind of happy. Oh, here we go. L'chaim to Life, the Ultimate Jewish Collection CD. I have a ton of CDs. I have so many CDs. Here's some Greek music. Eleni Karendrou, Ulysses Gaze. It's from a movie. It's a really cool CD. Sorry for reflections, people. But in any case, more examples. I do have a big collection of CDs, and apparently they're coming back. So when I was in Atlanta, of course, my son is like, oh, we got to go to the record store. And I was like, we sure do, because I need to keep talking to you about my plot for book 9. But more and more, they have not only the CDs, but they also have the players. And they have cassette players. And I have a lot of cassettes. And people apparently are now acquiring cassettes. They're even acquiring 45s. I just think it's the neatest thing. So as far as connections from knitting to going analog, we can cultivate mindfulness. And you don't necessarily have to have an app to do that, right? You can cultivate mindfulness by doing this. This is, again, you all are familiar with this project. It's just sheer stockinette going around. Don't need any subscription. I don't need any guided meditation. No apps. It's just the repetitive rhythm of the knitting and the naturally calming meditative state that it puts me in. It's awesome. And it's, all it costs is a skein of yarn. It's probably a $20 skein of yarn. Also makes waiting productive. Boy, I don't know about you, but when I'm sitting there waiting, I really like having something in my hands. I'm trying to remember, there was some event that I went to that required waiting, and I didn't have my knitting in my hands, and I was disappointed. But portable knitting is a huge blessing. You can take it to the doctor's office. You can take it to the airport. I got a lot of knitting done on my sock in the airport. Train stations, meetings, of course. Meetings, it's just a necessity to have your knitting with you at that. And have you ever seen how even during a meeting, like people are scrolling on a phone, or even just sitting in the airport? I was looking around. It's like, how many people are just doom scrolling? You know, it was a lot. And I was reading. I was actually reading. We're gonna fit that in too. So books. People are going back to good old-fashioned books. It's just awesome. Also, one nice thing about knitting, obviously, is it deepens your appreciation for clothing. You never look at handmade garments the same way once you've made it yourself. It's fun to go shopping and kind of critique what I'm finding, because there's a lot to critique. But you gain a first-hand understanding of all the labor, engineering, and artistry that goes in. It's not like instant anymore. You know, you can't just scroll and be like, oh my gosh. You know, it's you understand that good things, nice things come from human hands. They take work, and they deserve accordingly to be appreciated. Now, another thing that's really great, and I think this is something my daughter talks a lot about with going analog. So they're tired of all the subscriptions, and she and her boyfriend have gone in heavy now to collecting DVDs. They want their own movie library. They want to just have that stuff on the shelf, and they'll go around and they'll find used ones, and they'll look for whatever it is that they're most particularly interested in. We have a pretty good DVD collection. There have been times when I've thought, maybe I should get rid of some of those. But since analog media now is coming back, I'm like, no, I'm just glad I kept them, because it's true. You know, what if those apps go away, or your whole library that you've cultivated, it could just be gone in one fell swoop just because someone else took over the app, and you know, they decided we're going to start from scratch. So I've got all these DVDs of movies that I know I like. Just gotten rid of a few that I didn't. Tried them. It's like maybe it's some kind of horror that I don't like or something like that. But the point is that it creates independence from all the digital subscriptions that are sort of never ending. And knitting and fiber crafting, they have a similar effect, because you can make your own hats, you can make your own scarves, you can make your own socks. Oh my gosh, what would I do without my hand-knit socks? I don't know. I'm always parading around in those, and I'm like, look, I made that. It's really cool. But I'm glad I made it, because I can make my own socks that fit my own feet and are comfortable and look the way I want them to. And I did it all by myself, just with a skein of yarn. I don't have to rely on retailers, and I don't have to rely on subscriptions. I don't even have subscriptions to yarn boxes, y'all. I've thought about it, but have never done it. Never done it. So I don't know if you guys do that. I'd be interested in your experience. I've heard of people doing those subscriptions, and then they're like, you know, I get the stuff, and it's like you get that dopamine hit the minute it arrives, and then after that you're like, why do I have that? So anyhow, yeah, here's another thing that's cool about going analog and about knitting, crocheting, etc. You're preserving traditional knowledge. You're being connected to techniques that have been handed down across generations and cultures for centuries. And, you know, there's a certain level of going analog that I think produces the same thing. I mean, just even in terms of something like canning, you know, instead of like just buying some crazy processed food, just learn how to fix that stuff by yourself, you know. It's all connected, all this, you know, going back to basics and assuring your independence and trying to preserve even like a degree of sanity and health. There's like a healthy challenge that's involved, so opposed to the mindless scrolling. And I'm guilty of that, you know. It's just, I'm always thinking about the news and what am I missing? What am I missing? And then I look, it's like, it's the same thing it was yesterday. I should just quit. So lately I've been starting Sudoku, and I just love the pen and paper and the thought that goes into it. And I'm not holding any device. I'm just using the paper and my mind and trying to figure it out. And it's a challenge. And knitting is the same way. You know, it's a beautiful challenge. All the problem solving that goes into it, especially when you try a new technique, and of course the perseverance, right? And the mistakes. Like even in Sudoku, it's like I put a number there. Oh, nope, that's not good. I have to scratch it out, but I have to live with that mistake, and that's okay, because that's part of the process, and it's an opportunity to learn and to improve, as opposed to a reason to quit. It's hard to find that kind of thing when you're just scrolling on Instagram or whatever it is, you know? It's a healthy challenge. Another thing that's cool about it is you can build community. Again, going back to the airport and watching all those people who were just scrolling, everybody just looks past each other. It's crazy. It's a crazy vibe. Whereas if I knit in a guild, then I can build community. And even just talking about your craft, it's so exciting. Nobody talks about what I was just scrolling, right? How many times do you engage in a conversation, you share with the person next to you, what are you scrolling? What are you scrolling? We don't even talk about that because guess what? It doesn't matter. But when I went to that yarn store in Georgia and I was like, can I do a video, we started talking and we had so much in common. And we started talking about the values that we associated with our craft, the values that they associated with the store, when they started it, why they carried what they did, how they came across it, their customers. There's just so much interesting stuff that's involved in just that one craft that revolves around yarn. And we could just sort of build this connection and this friendship, over an hour. And you're never going to do that when you're sitting beside someone scrolling. It's crazy. When you think about it, the community building is awesome when you're crafting. So I think people going analog, if you're talking about people about like what you collect or why, or what's in your collection, can build community, so it's related. Can also be a way of embracing imperfection. Like I've had plenty of records that got a scratch, or the technology wasn't so perfect then as far as like even just recording. Here's an interesting example. I don't know how many of you are horn players, but one of the most famous horn players from back in the day was Dennis Brain from England, and just fantastic, made all these recordings of the Mozart concertos. But if you listen to those early recordings, like from the 50s or something like that, he makes mistakes. Nowadays, if an orchestra makes a mistake, digitally, they fix it. It's the same as like, photoshopping a picture. You can't be imperfect anymore. But when you're knitting and crocheting and making things by yourself, guess what? Imperfection is part and parcel of what you're doing. We can embrace the imperfection as part of just our humanity. But with all these digital machines, techniques of, creating perfect whatever, it's hard to encounter that. But if you go analog and you get recordings that are really old, or books with some kind of mistake in them or something like that, it's not a big deal because it's like, hey, that's the way we are. We aren't machines. Guess what? We can value authenticity over machine perfect precision. And I think that's really a great thing. How about your attention? Like, to the extent that your attention is, guess what? It's a commodity. Your attention is pretty valuable to the people who are making those apps and trying to make us addicted to them. What if you own your own attention? If you have a knitting project that never gives you an alert, never gives you an advertisement, never jumps in your face saying, look at me, then you can decide what you want to do with it. When you pick it up, when you put it down, how fast you knit, what color you add, what stitch you use. You can make all those decisions using your own attention and paying your own attention to what you're doing, how, why, and not having your attention sort of taken over for you by manipulative algorithms. There's no algorithm involved in this knitting that shouts at me and tries to steer me in a certain direction. It's so freeing. I just love it. So we mentioned books. Books are also, I see people reading books. A lot of you read my books, which is great. These books, these are all by me. This is a translation I did, and I'll just look at what I did. I did this probably 8 or 10 years ago. And of course, the original is from a Hungarian author that I just love. And the reason I translated his works was because it's the only way I had to read them without hauling a dictionary around to look up every 10th word. And it's just so cool, and I can hold it, and here's another one. Great book, people. Y'all should buy this. It's moving along really like the spinning wheel maker. When I read it at the end, I was just really excited about it, but I just love holding a book. When I was, I don't know if I can find it here. I might be able to. I can find it. I was reading a book that I've had in my library for forever, and it's this one. I had this book. I should have had this out a long time ago. Got it in the 90s. This is about a blind scientist. It's called Privileged Hands, Scientific Night. And there's the author, Garrett Vermeer. I'm guessing he's still alive. And it was this was my friend on my whole trip to Atlanta and back. I read the whole book. And it was just so cool. I was able to knit in the car. But when I was on the plane and at night, I read this book. It's fantastic. I don't know if it's still available. If it is, it's really great. This man lost his sight when he was 4, and he managed to become a very sophisticated paleontologist who works with shells. Just fascinating. Books are awesome. As far as some more connections, so what about the idea of delayed gratification? You know, again, those dopamine hits. There's something about those cat videos on Instagram, and I make them too, right? They're really cute, and they just give you instant laugh. But sometimes we need to learn to sort of anticipate the gratification, the reward of completing a project. Might take a few weeks, might take months, might take years to finish a knitting project. But then when you do, the excitement is all the more rewarding. And it's not just because you finished the project, but also just because of the journey itself. The journey itself is like such a huge part of the satisfaction. And I think that's true with collecting and with a lot of this analog thrust, you know, that really what you want to do is to just like enjoy, like, you know, finding, collecting, acquiring, comparing, contrasting, and building up like a repertoire of, you know, books to read or recordings to listen to or films to enjoy or whatever, and you can go back to them, right? And the journey is really a part of it. It's also a good way to cultivate more thoughtful consumption. Now, again, people can go overboard, right? And we all are at risk for having yarn stash and fiber stash. In fact, there was a fiber festival this weekend in Fargo, and I'm like, I'm not gonna go. I just, you know, I could go there and I could spend a couple $100, but I don't need to, right? So I want to consume thoughtfully. There's only so many records that you can have before you're, you know, just an all-out hoarder, which my dad was probably borderline. I think he had a few thousand records, and it was quite incredible, his collection. He had a lot. He had to build a special room with special shelving to house all those records. So, you know, we do have to think twice about how much we accumulate, what we accumulate. We need to be discerning, and knitting is similar because knitters, crazy as it seems, they tend to become discerning buyers. A lot of them, they start choosing quality fibers. They start thinking about the designs they want to make, and they don't necessarily go after some kind of a trend where you're just going to whip out, you know, this t-shirt that was popular yesterday and is not popular tomorrow. So it's a little more thoughtful consumption, and that certainly applies to going analog, I think. What about the idea of leaving a legacy? You know, the stuff that we make can become heirlooms. They don't necessarily, but they certainly can. Blankets, sweaters, you know. I still have stuff that my mom made, and things like, you know, tablecloths, definitely, they're heirlooms. My sister and I were trading notes. She was showing me these stores of stuff that came from our brother, from our mother, from our grandmother, that she still has and she gets out from time to time. If you choose carefully, you can leave a legacy that is really cool. I went through my records recently and I got rid of ones that I thought were sort of second rate, but in the meantime, I've got this really good collection that my son has told me I'm interested in it, you know, down the road. I have like almost everything that Debussy ever wrote, and I've got original discs by, you know, LPs from Miles Davis, just about everyone that Miles Davis did, or Weather Report, you know. So you can leave a legacy, and it's true with knitting and crocheting too. The stuff that you make, like even a pair of mittens, you know, you can hand down. Hats you can hand down. Another thing that's nice about knitting is it can kind of complement some of the analog pursuits, so you can listen to your vinyl records while you're knitting. Or some people journal about knitting. That's another really cool activity that fits into this whole sort of space, is, you know, writing with pens and papers. I don't know if you all know Pepa Dak. She's from New Mexico, and she has zeowolves. But the thing that she does in addition to knitting is she collects colored pens, which is really cool. And she journals about her knitting. And gardening, woodworking, baking, even hiking. I mean, heck, there are people who knit when they're on the way. It's just really cool. So there are all kinds of stuff like that complement each other. Knitting, crafting, crocheting, they go together with a lot of analog pursuits. Then another thing that's really cool is measurable progress. So this scarf has just been growing and growing and growing. I can literally measure how much it's grown, and I can also measure what I've collected as far as books, as far as LPs, as far as CDs, even the ones that I've made, like recordings of my own playing on trumpet. And lastly, let's just consider how going analog reminds us that things take time when they are worthwhile. That's like maybe one of the greatest lessons about knitting, is that beauty is made one stitch at a time. So, you know, this is kind of an age where we're obsessed with speed, but knitting, fiber crafting, crocheting, going analog reminds us that a lot of life's richest rewards come from sustained attention, from craftsmanship, and from care. So I would like to know your thoughts if you've gone analog, and if so, like what it is about your life that you've sort of adjusted to go along with the analog age, and how knitting and crafting fit in with that. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk soon. Ciao.